Council meeting for March 25th, 2025. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Tauschek.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Matzdorf.
Here.
Gilson.
Here.
Hildebrand.
Here.
Penkwitz.
Here.
Binder.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum. Next is the pledge. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion.
Also move to approve the consent agenda?
I'll second his motion.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mayor,
Yes.
I was at the last meeting and my name isn't in the minutes as being present.
We'll get that updated.
We will fix that. Thank you. Nice correction. I would like to highlight one thing on the consent agenda, and in attendance tonight, we have Lee Gentine that is kind of running that Fall Palooza event, and I would give him the opportunity to make any comments to the group at this time. Lee?
Yeah, this is our fourth annual Palooza, and we had done this event in downtown Plymouth at the fairgrounds and the Wild Center. But this year, we are doing all of our activities at the city parks. So the Palooza is a benefit for mental health and addiction recovery. We have raised $265,000 over the first 3 years, and that's been distributed to 4 different nonprofits. And yeah, we think the park's going to be a great spot, and so we will have vendors in the park. We will have activities that the public library is doing, a magician, a children's band. We will have a polka band, probably in the morning. We will have some of you are familiar with Paul Zuckerman. He will have a 6-piece group doing a jazz thing in the afternoon, and then we have the group Boogie and the Yo-Yos who will perform at night, probably from 6:30 till 9:30. There'll be concessions, there'll be a limited number of other food trucks. John Nelson agreed to open the Maple Shack or Sugar Shack, and they're going to do pressed cider. We will have bounce houses. We will have a large cornhole tournament that will go on in the parking lot down below. So a lot of different activities, and we think the park is just going to be a much nicer place to gather people. And the logistics are a lot easier than trying to deal with fairgrounds and downtown. So,
Sounds good. Sounds exciting. Thank you very much. We appreciate all the work. With that and the correction, clerk will call the roll, please.
Nelson.
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Matzdorf.
Yes.
Penkwitz.
Yes.
Tauschek.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Binder.
Yeah.
Gilson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, this is the audience portion where we ask people to sign in and be recognized by the chair. You do the talking and we do the listening. Tonight, we have 2 people that signed up. The first one is Carol Schultz. Carol?
I'm Carol Schultz, Public Relations Neighbors for Neighbors.
Speak
And I
up,
live-
please.
I live at W7160 County Road B. I had the opportunity to testify in front of the Environmental Commission, trying to get a study done of the Nichols Creek area, and I'd like to share with you some of my testimony tonight. I don't have any type of degree that makes me an expert on Nichols Creek. I do, however, have eyes and ears that will tell me that this is a pristine area that should not be disturbed by high power lines. I've spent the last 30 years hiking and hunting Nichols Creek and can tell you a great deal about the property. On the day my grandson's grandfather passed away, the boys and I spent the day there. We walked through the prairie and crossed the bridge, where we stopped to watch for brown trout. We explored the duck pond and did see a couple of mallards. We caught and released some frogs and waded in the icy water. We continued uphill to explore the hardwoods. We then circled back down to explore the cedars. We followed the creek and we walked to the swamp. We sat for a while and just listened to nature, telling each other what we heard. We hiked back to the artesian spring, where the water comes out of the ground so clear and cold you can drink it. There's a huge downed tree at the head of the creek where we sat, we talked, we laughed, and we cried. I can't imagine having spent that day with the crackle and whine of the power lines overhead, breaking the peace and serenity we were so desperately seeking. I have firsthand experience with the snaps, crackles, and shocks these lines give off. And yes, I did say shocks. You see, I already have a north and south 325 high tension line running through my farm, north and south. We've put a 2-man metal tower deer stand under those lines where it has been clear cut, and I like to sit there with my grandkids and watch for the deer that cut through there. At this point, the tower is not usable. Every time anyone touches it, there's a shock. In the damp conditions, the noise is louder and the shocks are much higher. I would invite you to please go to Nichols Creek. Kick over any stone, dig in the mud, walk in the creek, and you'll understand how special and how very fragile this ecosystem really is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Next person that signed up is Brian Witkowski. Brian?
Yeah, I just signed in. I'm here for possibly the closed session for the discussion of that. That's all.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. Thank you. We appreciate people that sign in and make comments. We invite people to do it all the time. Moving on to item 5, no items were removed from the consent agenda. Moving on to item 6, annual report. Police Department annual report presentation. Chief Ken Rugels, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I've been asked tonight to give you a peek inside the police department for last year, so I'm gonna see if I can do it without my glasses here. Since that's a little bit further, so without further ado, we'll get into it. So we are fully staffed. We have been so since May of last year. Our authorized sworn staff is 16 officers. That's from me all the way down. 1 chief, 1 deputy chief, 3 lieutenants, an investigator, school resource officer, 9 patrol officers, and of course our 2 canine officers. We also have 2 civilian staff. We now call them police support specialists. That's a name change where we used to call records or administrative assistants and such. We have 1 who's both a support specialist and the municipal court clerk. She shares those duties. And the other is a support specialist who also mans our front desk. That is our full staffing currently. This is our organizational chart. I apologize for the audience. It's hard to read on the screen. Hopefully it's better for the aldermen. That is our current structure. Again, lieutenants off to the left side there with the officers reporting to them. There is no day shift lieutenant currently. The officers on day shift report directly to the deputy chief. And then of course our police support specialist off on the right-hand side. Comparison, and again, much harder to read for the audience here, but 2009 organizational chart was one I had access to. Compared to our 2025, as you can see, in about the last 15 years, there's been very little change in the police department. Our structure is substantially similar. The notable change is that we went from 4 part-time civilian staff down to the 2 we currently have, which are full-time. It should be noted, though, that the municipal court clerk duties are about a 0.4 out of a full-time thing, so the 1 support specialist is about 0.6 to the police department and 0.4 per hours to the court clerk duties. So those are shared, so we actually, there's a little bit of a decrease in that from 4 part-timers down to 2 full-time, but part of the full-time is shared with the municipal court clerk position. So that is one area that we will be discussing in future to maybe do a staffing change, so just notable there. We can talk about raw numbers. When you look at them, they really don't mean much. When I put them into a graph form, we see that there are 3 things that stand way above all other activities right now. The notable ones are actually mostly service calls. So if you'll see, the highest ranking ones actually go with the numbers on the left for counter assists, which are when somebody calls us and asks for an officer to return that phone call, or when somebody walks into the police department and wants to speak to an officer and it doesn't result in necessarily a criminal charge or something like that, more of a service oriented. The other area is citizens assists, which are similar, normally where we go out to a location or we find somebody in need of assistance and we perform some type of assistance for them that's not one of these other categories. And then the last category that really stood out for me was our all other is large. Again, it's a catch-all of everything else that doesn't fit one of these categories. If you look at all that, it really boils down to the fact that we are largely a service-based organization. We're not just doing criminal and things of that nature. We are actually out there to assist citizens and try to do things that they need help with, or find them when they need help and try to assist in any way we can. The other little category, if you get off to the far right-hand side, there's kind of a gold bar there or whatever. That's actually our traffic services and such that have risen to that number. We can break these down to make a little bit more sense of them. So these are our criminal incidents. And as you can see, generally speaking, the bottom categories there, burglaries, motor vehicle theft, things of that nature, have remained very constant. What we do see is there's been a general decline, for instance, in the theft or the disorderly conduct, with an uptick just in the last year. Those are our criminal incidents. These are the most common ones that we deal with. If we look at the service calls, now again, these are the ones that had that huge spike on the first chart I showed you. But as you can see, since 2022, we've had a marked decline in even those service calls. My best guess as to what this relates to is the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you'll remember, 2020, 2021, 2022 were largely the years that were considered part of the pandemic. And policing during those years was largely at a distance. We did not necessarily try to have face-to-face encounters like we did before, for the obvious reason. The more people we encountered, the more likely it was we could both contract the disease and spread it. And so the encouragement from all sources regarding the health and the pandemic was to do as much as we could from a distance. And so in those 3 years, I think the reason we see these large numbers largely has to do with the method of policing during the COVID pandemic. As you can see, in 2023 and 2024, we've returned more to what I would say is probably normal for this city. Again, if we look at our traffic-related incidents, thankfully accidents are very flat. That's the bottom blue line. Traffic citations, you can see there's been a marked increase since 2022, the same with the warnings that we give. Again, more people are now on the road since the pandemic. They're driving around. We're seeing a return to behaviors that we saw before the pandemic. And so, again, I think that's largely part of what we're seeing here. The other thing is, of course, I'd like to take credit and say that our officers are making more traffic contacts. I Again, can I say it's 100% because of what we're doing? No, I think there is some of the health concerns and the social changes that have occurred in the last few years are part of what we're seeing here. But again, I'm not going to take away. They are out there. I would also note that, as you can see, we issue about twice as many warnings as we do citations. The emphasis, again, is try to be friendly, solve problems where we can without penalties. But when penalties are needed, we still have the ability to issue citations. So the officers are given a great deal of discretion in determining what they issue citations for and warnings. We do not have any form of a system that tells them to do either one. We do ask that they make traffic stops, but we don't tell them how to handle it. It is their discretion and their job to figure out what is best suited to the individual situation they encounter. As far as enforcement actions, these would be the other types of arrests and actions that we can take. Warrant arrests relatively flat across the 5 years we're looking at. Ordinance arrests are markedly up, misdemeanors markedly up. Thankfully, felonies are down. So again, I don't have a specific reason for, again, there's a notable spike in felony arrests in 2021. But other than that, we are seeing a general incline in the ordinance arrests and misdemeanor arrests and a decline in felonies. To me, that's a good sign. Felonies, of course, being the most severe crimes. So in this case, our severe crimes are down. Our arrests for the minor crimes are slightly up. Probably a better indication of the level of activity in the department is this. These are our total incident reports per year for the last 5 years. As you can see, in 2020, we were at 5,000. There was a slight dip. And now we're up to almost 3 times the level of incident reports that we were taking in 2020. So there is an increased activity. There has been one change. I believe before I got here, there was a change that we now require the officers to document every property check and business check in an incident report. It's very minor. It's just a quick one line. I checked this business, found all the doors secure, everything else. But we're documenting those so they are searchable as to when we were on the premises and what we did at the time. Those things, I believe that was a change somewhere in that 2022 mark. So again, that did contribute to our increase here. But again, as you can see, 3 times the level of activity at this point as far as documented incidents. I'm always asked about our canine units, and as you know, we increased our canine units last year with the blessing of the council. So Canine Fry and Lieutenant Primising are our first canine unit. You can see some training hours there. They had 36 deployments in the last year, 3 arrests based on that, some of their seizures, and Fry assisted in 2 pursuits, 2 fleeing persons in a building search. Our newest canine tier, and Officer Lindsley, they came in May. They were the staffing change that brought us back up to full staffing in May, so they didn't have a full year with us. That probably accounts for the slightly fewer training hours. The training hours are mandated to keep the canine certifications up, so they have to do quite a few of them. Again, 23 deployments, 8 arrests, some of the seizures there. Again, a lot of paraphernalia with Tier. He seems to be able to track those little tiny amounts and stuff and identify. So we also use the canines to assist other agencies in the county. As you can see, Sheboygan County Sheriff's Department is our #1 user outside of our own city as far as using the canines. Our dogs are dual-purpose dogs. They are the only 2 dual-purpose dogs currently in the county. What that means is they are both narcotics detection and they are trained how to do apprehension, or as it's commonly referred to as bite work. They can be used to actually bring people into custody, detain them, those kind of a thing. So with that being said, they are frequently brought on when there's a potential by other agencies that they may need to use that resource. Again, the pursuits, building searches, things of that nature. As you can see, Sheboygan County Sheriff calls us more regularly than anybody else. Again, we're in the middle of the county and the only agency I think out here that actually has the apprehension canine. So Sheboygan City has called us then the next amount of times. You will see that our own department is in here a couple of times. That is just generally when we call them out specifically to assist us. And it's more of an assist where the canine is not initiating the activity, but another officer is summoning them to assist in the process. So just an example of how often we're being used to help our neighboring agencies. Some of our accomplishments this past year, we have focused now on the career development of our officers. Deputy Chief and I have now done where we want training to be focused on current positions and the role within the agency and developing officers in that area. And then, of course, preparing them to move up in the agency. This is something that was identified in our strategic plan as to how to keep people, retain quality employees. One of the things that does that is to make the employee feel valued and to develop them in their capacity, giving them options and opportunities either within the agency or even developing them to maybe take my job eventually. So the updated of equipment in 2023, we updated all our ballistic shields within the agency. The ones that we had here were expired. If you're relying on a ballistic shield, you really should know it's within date. It's just how I feel about the issue. Replacing all of our spike strip systems. Those are what we use when there's a pursuit to deflate the tires and bring pursuits to a successful end. We've also updated our portable radios. As council may remember, that's part of our capital budgetary improvements. We are currently in year 2 of a projected 4-year plan. We are running just about middle of the road on that plan, so we are on track to complete it in 4 years. We also began buying electric bicycles for the PD. The first one was purchased last year. The second one is actually just finished being built. And so we are looking to have those used and to encourage the officers to do more bike patrol. The officers prefer them because with the electric motor, they can arrive at a call, not winded and still able to function. And so that is a big benefit when you're getting an officer there, that they didn't just have to pedal up the hill or something like that to get to the call. So we are continuing to do active threat training. This is our active shooter, violent offender type response program. We got 2 officers to attend ALICE, which was the preferred instruction program that the school district has been using. We finally got 2 of them through the instructor course in August of last year. We are currently working with the school district to plan the full implementation of that training, and we now have a few dates on board on the calendar to start doing district-wide training with the school district. So that is moving forward as well. The next step is to start working with some of the 2 private schools that have reached out to us for assistance in this, some of the churches and other businesses as they ask for us to come in and help coach them and prepare them for hopefully something we all agree will never occur. So increased community outreach and involvement. Again, this has been something where we need to be more involved and more visible in our community in a positive light. So at special events, we are attending those things, trying to do something to actually do it in a manner where we're not just security, we're not just there to enforce the laws, but to actually engage with people and to have a positive face. We continue to, last year we hosted our first ever community fun day, a brainstorm of the deputy chief there, where we actually hosted a kids mini golf outing at Tom and Jerry's Mini Golf. It was very well received. We got a lot of compliments from it. All of us got to play a couple rounds of golf with kids or have a contest to see who get a hole-in-one. The chiefs, including Fire Chief Pafford and Deputy Chief Starker and I, were all took a turn in a dunk tank and got our share of baseballs and stuff thrown to put us in the water. So something just where kids and other people can see us interacting in a positive fashion, not just an enforcer. Again, our Public Safety Night is an annual thing we do at McDonald's every year, and then of course Shop with a Cop. I'll actually move on here because there's some photos. Again, my apology to the audience, it's a little hard to see some of it, but on the right is the poster from the Community Fun Day. In the middle at the top there, that Plymouth Police shelter there, our sun tent or whatever you want to call it, that's something we purchased this year. We then had a booth at Mill Street Days, and we had the opportunity for the public to come talk to us, spend a minute with an officer, discuss problem in your neighborhood, whatever it is, but at least they could find us this way, and we had people in that tent all through the event in order to have conversations with the public. Again, at the bottom with Grimace there, you see our night at McDonald's, and of course, Shop with a Cop. This year, we actually had the fire department assist us. They provided a lot of additional manpower. We had 7 kids, which is the most we've ever taken shopping. You may be familiar with Sheboygan County does a much larger Shop with a Cop that involves the entire county. Ours is the kids are chosen through the Plymouth School District. We don't choose the kids. We do the fundraising and then we take them shopping. The focus is on families that have had a hard year or are suffering in some manner, maybe lost a loved one, something like that. We try to just do something to increase Christmas and the cheer in the family. Again, fire department helped us out by providing a lot more manpower to make this easier. We are blessed now, finally, we have continuing support from Walmart and from Lakeside Pepsi to help fund this event every year going forward. They've committed that as long as we keep coming to Walmart, they'll keep helping us foot the bill for this. So it is a good thing for the community. It focuses just on Plymouth area youth. And again, with the fire department now, we're actually talking about changing the name to Holiday Heroes or something to that effect. So it includes the fire department and it's not just Shop with the Cop. But Shop with the Cop is well known, and again, we're going to see if we can keep the same kind of interest but move it along to a different name. So some of our goals and objectives, we will have to negotiate a new union contract this year. Ours expires in December. We're going to continue our community outreach program. We're going to continue to develop our personnel, as we already stated. We are currently updating additional technology. We are in the process right now of the contract with Motorola to provide new in-car and body camera system. That's across the board from our old system. We are also adding automatic license plate reader cameras in some periphery areas on major streets within the city. Those will be focused on providing suspect identification when we have an actual crime with a vehicle description or partial description. These cameras will be able to identify the type of vehicle, make, model, even color, and give us the license plate. So if we only have the partial license plate of, let's say, ABC, we can then search within a period of time around that crime for all the vehicles passing those points of interest, let's say a half hour before and after the crime, all vehicles that had ABC and are colored black or whatever it is. And it will give us a list of vehicles that we can then focus on to try to identify suspects. So there are a lot of cameras being implemented across the country. There's roughly, I think we're almost up to 1,000 right now in Wisconsin. So it is a growing industry and it is being very beneficial to law enforcement. We continue to implement best practices as far as our reporting and evidence. We're currently working to move our storage of currency from our evidence vault to a bank account when it is not the actual bills we need. We brought that before council just a little bit ago. And of course, we are working on an improvement to our vehicle storage for impounds. Again, we already talked about our active threat response and our increase in the use of bicycles. So some of our training, we did over 1,700 hours of training this year for our department. As you can see, that breaks down to roughly 100 hours per officer in their position. A well-trained department is a department that actually will perform under stress, and that's what I'm striving for at this point. We've had too many instances across our country where poorly trained or poorly maintained officers, as far as their training and their expertise, have resulted in bad outcomes. And so it is our goal to try to train our personnel that under stress and in terrible situations, they resort back to their training and they do what we expect of them. And so that is our focus, like I said, in addition to the development in their position with the goal of eventually making all of them supervisors and or even a chief someday if needed. So that's kind of where we sit today. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Good report.
John, go ahead.
Two questions. Did you have to deal with many incidents of where people don't have a driver's license? And the other one is not having auto insurance.
We issue citations and such for both offenses, warnings when applicable. Again, the officer makes the discretion, but yes, I can't give you a number off the top of my head, but every week I'm seeing reports of people that don't have driver's licenses, either no valid driver's license because they haven't maintained it or they never obtained one. We also see suspended and revoked licenses on a regular basis. So, and then as far as insurance, yes, oftentimes I'll see insurance tickets. We stop people generally just for another traffic violation, and of course upon the demand to produce the documents is when we find out that they don't have insurance. There are several, like I said, warnings when it's appropriate, if it's just expired a little bit, something like that, citations when it's obviously a gross neglect case where they're not maintaining insurance.
Anybody else? John?
How about, I assume you guys respond when there's an overdose situation and administer Narcon, or maybe the ambulance does, but do you see a change, a trend or anything?
There's actually been
Was this
fewer, in my
presentation
opinion,
in the
just in the
file?
last few months, maybe the last
should have
year or
that
so.
too.
When I first came up here, it was not uncommon for us to respond to an overdose. Thankfully, it's tapered off a little bit. We're still seeing them. We had one January-ish.
Oh, wow.
I think it was. January or February. There has been one already this year, an overdose case. We did administer the Narcan. The ambulance also carries Narcan. Very successful normally with the Narcan, as long as it's an opioid-based type drug that they've used. Generally speaking, we don't hold it back. If we think there's any kind of a drug on board, we're giving the Narcan, because right now the medical direction is the Narcan can't hurt you. And if you are on an opiate and you have overdose, the Narcan will hopefully negate it and bring it back. It blocks the effects of the opioid. Again, there's some side effects to it, right? Most people come out of that not happy that they've been woken up in that fashion. So, yeah, oftentimes we have to use caution.
One more, John?
Yep, good copy of what you just said. Nice
Good report.
presentation. Could we have that as part of our file to refer
Send
to?
that around.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Chief. We appreciate that. And I think you have another item on the agenda.
I have one more item. As part of our career development and our recognition of training, we started an awards program within the department this past year. And so one of the areas that we are recognizing is the officers and lieutenants and such who attend advanced training. And so tonight I'd like to welcome up Lieutenants Primasing, Tone, and Officer Greg Coast. We are going to recognize all of them. They completed what's called the Leadership in Police Organizations training this year. And I will read you one of the certificates here. I'll give you the other two. So, this is an advanced training recognition presented to Officers Greg Coast, Lieutenant John Primasing, and Lieutenant Tracy Tone. The Plymouth Police Department is dedicated to developing the capabilities and leadership, excuse me, I'm getting older, of our employees. One of the programs we use is the Wisconsin Department of Justice Leadership and Police Organizations Training. The DOJ, in partnership with the International Association of Police Chiefs, offer the LPO training to cultivate leaders at all levels of an organization. The LPO program teaches a behavioral science approach to leading people, groups, and organizations. Based on material originally developed for the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, LPO training is highly interactive and is taught 1 week a month over a 3-month period. It is the most requested career development course offered by the Wisconsin Department of Justice. In recognition of their completion of the LPO program and their commitment to developing leadership within our agency, we would like to present this certificate, and we will be presenting them with pins, but they did not arrive in time. I apologize. That's on me. But if you, all three of you, if you would come up, we'll present you with your certificates, and then congratulate each one of you on your commitment to your leadership and assisting us in developing a well-trained and well-prepared department. So thank you very much for your efforts. Everybody get pictures they needed?
Get back over your back.
Oh, thank you.
Come on, man.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you.
Usually he's a camera hunk. Wider lens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief,
That's not
and
nice.
thank you for a very good department report. We certainly appreciate all the work that goes into it on behalf of the citizens of the city of Plymouth and the community at large. Thank you. Moving on to item 7, new business. Item A, discussion and possible action on agreement with the school district TID distribution. I'll call on our city administrator, Tim Blakeslee, to give us a brief summary, and then we will have some questions possibly, and we have our school district manager here tonight to answer any specific questions that you might have. So with that,
All
Tim.
right, yeah, just a very brief summary. So at the meeting on April 30th, 2024, the Common Council approved Resolution Number 6, authorizing the closure of TID Number 4. The remaining funds in TID 4, excluding the affordable housing extension, would typically be distributed after the final TID 4 audit to the city, school district, LTC, and county. The final audit is expected to be completed in September of 25. Those monetary amounts are listed in your packet. The school district operates, and I just got this clarified from Amy Williams, who is here tonight for any detailed questions, on a June 30th to July 31st schedule, and has requested an advanced distribution of these funds prior to that June 30th, 2025 deadline to support several projects in summer 2025 prior to the 2025-2026 school budget year. So the attached agreement does outline that the city will provide a 90% distribution of those TID 4 funds to the school. A reconciliation will then be completed following the final TID 4 audit, and either the city will distribute the remainder of those funds or collect the balance accordingly. Worked with Attorney Fieber to put this agreement together. The school district did consider it at their last board meeting and did approve it on their end. This is not a distribution from the TID 4 Housing Increment Fund. This is just from the TID 4 fund balance following closure. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I think it's important to comment that sometimes timing on a lot of different levels doesn't always work out perfect, and we're certainly pleased to cooperate with the school and assist them in getting their funds to them sooner than later. We expect the audit report to verify what we're doing, but we're doing how much holdback as a
We're holding back 10%.
10%. So we're safe in that regard. So if anybody has any questions, we certainly will allow Amy from the school district to comment on that. And TID 4 was very successful, as we know. This is funds in all the different taxing districts that you get to use that are unencumbered at all, which is very nice. So, any comments on that?
I have a couple questions.
Question, go right
Make
ahead.
a motion before we discuss.
Right, we'll just do, let's have a question, this general comment.
Just clarification again, when is their fiscal year? I thought you said June 30th.
Yeah, so-
July 31st, that's.
Sorry, June 30th to July 1st.
To July 1st.
Yes.
Okay, instead of what's in here.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Then my other questions were the summer projects. I was just looking for an idea of what those projects were that they want to spend the money on ahead of time.
Yeah, so I'll have Amy from the school district respond to that.
I think that would be appropriate. It's not necessarily summer projects, my understanding, it's ongoing expenses and activities that they have in their budget that they would be doing anyway and potentially have to borrow for if funds weren't necessarily there because they're getting the funds anyway.
Amy, do you want to fill in? I believe there's some
Yeah.
capital projects at the school, correct?
Yeah, thank you. The district is very appreciative of the funds. We did, I believe that this TID was, it went another year, it was extended for
A year beyond expectations, right?
So we had already had capital projects in the works with these funds for the first year that we thought they were coming. But we had two capital projects. The Fairview Elementary School had a roofing project that was done last summer. And this summer, Horizon Elementary School will have the secured entrance done. So the funds are strictly used for capital projects.
Good question. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the distribution. And in this case, we're referring to the school district distribution only, not all four taxing districts.
Correct, yes.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the early distribution.
Mayor,
Alderman Tauschek.
I'll make the motion to approve the TID number 4 early distribution agreement
for the school district.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any questions? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Herman,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Penkwitz,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Tauschek,
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you for coming. We
Thanks, Amy.
appreciate it. Moving on to item B, discussion and possible action on agreement with New Summits LLC / SCEDC. Tim, you want to give us a brief summary on that, please?
Yeah, I'm very excited to bring this one forward. Tonight we also have Brian Dowdna in the audience with the SCEDC. So at the meeting on May 14, 2024, the Common Council did direct staff to finalize a negotiated development agreement for Plymouth's Forward Fund project. So the SCEDC has purchased property south of Plymouth Furniture and St. Vinny's with plans to develop a subdivision of 94 single-family homes and add an estimated $26 million in assessed value to Plymouth. In November of 2024, the council did direct the use of $2 million of the Housing Increment Fund. We were just referring to that Affordable Housing Fund, which is also known as the Housing Increment Fund. Total of 2.4, we're going to use about $2 million on this project instead of a typical PAYGO TID funding model. This allows the SCEDC to apply for and receive a WIDA loan through the state at a 1% interest rate, which is just unbelievable. So WIDA does not allow funding from an active TID, but does permit funding from a housing increment fund. And then the idea is that as this project develops, the housing increment fund will then be replenished by the TID increment that is generated. So we have negotiated that development agreement with the SCEDC. It is included as attachment 1. The agreement includes 90 single-family homes. The current proposal is 94, with construction required to begin by June 30th, 2026. Again, $26 million of assessed value with final plat approval May 31st, 2026. Actually, the SCEDC will be on the next Plan Commission agenda with preliminary plat, and then they have to get all their engineering work in, and then they can begin construction and finalize the plat. So the SCEDC will receive a $2 million payment from the Housing Increment Fund, $1 million upon signing a contract with the home builder, $400,000 upon sale of 10 homes. This is referred to as the public-private partnership fee payment. The SCDC will make a payment in lieu of taxes beginning in 2031 if this development does not reach that valuation of $26 million. And then the pilot payment will end once the private partnership fee payment has ended. The SCEDC is required to keep $1.375 million in an escrow account. This is for whatever reason if something happens and we need to finish the infrastructure, we have some funding on hand to be able to do that. We have some standard development terms in the agreement, worked with Attorney Fieber, putting those together regarding inspection, stormwater, sanitary sewer, etc. Public infrastructure will be built to city specifications and then conveyed to the city upon final completion. The city will own and maintain a stormwater facility. Again, that's going to be required to meet city standards. Just one caveat, we are requesting approval tonight as presented with New Summits LLC / SCEDC. Waiting for some final clarification on WIDA on what they want the final agreement to be with, whether New Summits, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the SCEDC, or directly with the SCEDC. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
Mayor, I'll move that we take action to approve the agreement with New Summits LLC and SCEDC.
I'll second that motion.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? With the understanding that the caveat that you mentioned is part of the first and second. Okay. Any questions? And Brian is here tonight. The chair will allow discussion with him regarding the agreement and any timelines or other information you might want. Thank you very much. Thank you all the work that you put into this, Brian. It's very nicely done and expectations are fantastic. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Penkwitz,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Tauschek,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to Item C, discussion and possible action on tornado sirens. Tonight we have Deputy Chief Matt Starker here to give us some information. Matt?
Good evening, nice to see you all again. So tonight, I'll kind of give you a little bit of a background of the system that we have in the city here. I'm going to kind of touch more specifically on one certain area in the city that we're dealing with. So the current warning system that we have implemented has been in place since 1996. It consists of 5 locations throughout the city. Currently, the city operates 2 different types of systems, one being on the top of City Hall here, and then the other 4 are what we would call a rotating head system. The life expectancy for these sirens is 30 to 40 years, so obviously we're getting up to that 30-year mark. The one location I'd like to talk about though is the Sunset Road location, which is located over near the Quick Yacht Sports Complex. That particular location has not been operable since 2017. I did have a company come out and take a look at it. The company is ASC, Mass Notification Systems Company. Their recommendation, since the siren hasn't been touched in so many years, is that it's going to need to be a complete rebuild for that station to be operable and be on the same program as the other 4. The price to rebuild that system came in at roughly $23,000, a little bit over that. As of now, the recommendation would be from the police department and Director of Public Safety would be to replace that system and have it working again. Again, due to the location of where it is, the large outdoor sporting complex, the manufacturing that we have there, the mobile home, and the campground, which is technically not in the city, but during the summertime it is used quite heavily. Again, in your packets, I did bring the pictures. Again, this is the other 4 locations. And then again, the one at City Hall is just a big circular style siren. The one at City Hall, the range for that is about 3/4 of a mile. Again, it all depends on terrain, but I'm told right now that ours is about 3/4 of a mile. The other ones in the city at the other 4 locations, the range, again, depending on terrain, is 1 mile to 1.5 miles. So right now, as the city lies, we do have complete coverage of the city. Also in your packet, I was asked to get a quote to replace all 5 sirens at one time, so you will see that. If we don't replace the one on Sunset Road, if we replace all 5 at one time, you're looking at around $160,000 to get that replaced. But for today's meeting, I would ask that the council approve the replacement or the rebuild of the Sunset location. And from my understanding, we're talking with Tim, is there is funds available for that.
Okay, thank you. Chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
I will make a motion to update that siren and go to a new one.
For the
Second.
amount of $23,717 approximately.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any questions, discussions, concerns?
How much
You're
money,
first, Greg, you go
how
first.
much money is out there for redoing all?
So we would have to take a deeper dive into the capital fund budget. We can certainly look into it next year. There's definitely funds available for $23,000 for the capital fund budget. I would have to do a little more digging to see if we could do all of it in 1 year. We always have other things that pop up during the year, so I certainly don't want to spend the fund balance on
Do we
it
have
right
to
away.
update that right this second, or can we wait till next year to see if we can do them all?
Yeah, it hasn't operated since 2017, so I don't know what another year's gonna hurt it, but at some point we would like to get it up and going. Again, if we don't replace the other 4, we just replace the one, they still all run off the same system, so there's no update to the system itself, it's just the actual update to the siren and the mechanics of it.
Alder Talchak?
I'll support the updating the siren on Sunset Drive. but I would like to see the remainder of the sirens coming in next year under look at the capital budget. Sure. And also probably come up with a maintenance plan. I see in there, it's what, $300 a site per year roughly?
So I spoke with Justin from the company, and we talked about the maintenance plan, and he kind of agrees with me. It doesn't pay to start a maintenance plan now, right? We're 30 years into these already. But yeah, I think a maintenance plan would help. What they suggest is the heads of the siren, because they rotate, to have those looked at once a year, and then the actual controls is once every other year.
Okay. On the Sunset Drive siren, if this passes tonight, what is their timeline of getting that replaced?
They can get it done by the fall,
Okay,
so, yep.
all right, thank you.
Alder Gilson?
If you were to possibly redo all of them, is there technology out there that would be so much better than what we have?
You know, I don't know, I would have to ask. The quotes that he gave me are for the exact same siren heads that we have now. I did express to him that, you know, as the city's looking to grow with, you know, residential and hopefully, you know, with business, that there may need, in the future, need for a sixth. But I can ask him about the technology part of it.
My question along those lines is, can we take what we have and maybe increase the length between them to cover that?
So move the entire system itself?
Well, maybe whatever it takes, like one, but are we gonna be putting up all new poles?
Yeah, if we're just replacing the heads and the controls, no.
Okay.
No.
It was just a thought I had, maybe, you know, if these can be expanded, maybe we can avoid getting another one.
No, we would just replace the heads and the controls on what we currently have. The only time we would need a new pole is if we had a sixth siren.
Okay,
Because like I said, right now we have good coverage.
okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, appreciate that. Clerk will call the roll.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Tauschak,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Binder,
Yeah.
Penkwitz.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. For the next couple parts, we're going to go into closed session. We will have votes coming out of closed session, so we'll reconvene afterwards. Chair will entertain a motion to close session for the following pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, paren C.
That's what I did.
You tried to help her, you know how that makes
Looks good.
Let the record show we're now back in open session. The chair will entertain a motion on the second closed item, the north building at parcel 5927-18222060.
I'll make a motion to give GTS a raise or repair order.
I'll second that motion.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Roll call on razor repair order as indicated.
Binder,
Yes.
Pankwitz,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Tauscher,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Matsdorf.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. And the second item in closed session pursuant to 19.85 per NC regarding city administrator utility manager. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll move that we offer a deferred compensation in the amount of $14,000 to the city administrator utilities manager
I'll
for
second.
2025.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tauscher,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Pankwitz,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a first and a second.